Hello, welcome to MIXXIN Academy, and in this video we're going to show you how to retrigger an LFO tool. Now, why would you want to retrigger an LFO tool? Let me show you what an LFO tool actually does. So it applies this constant envelope in time on volume, panning, whatever you like. And mostly we use it, let's say, on something we wanted to sidechain to the kick drum. And instead of having a compressor do that, if we use an LFO tool or any kind of envelope or an LFO generating plugin like this, is going to give us better control over how that amplitude is going to be controlled than just simple sidechaining, reacting to a kick drum. So what could go wrong there? If I just, play this, everything seems to be fine. The bass is ducked every time the kick drops, since this is 1/4 of the beat, so every time there is a kick drum right there, the bass is ducked down. Now if I introduce a plugin, even if it's turned off here in Ableton, if I introduce a plugin that does add a lot of delay, so introduces a lot of processing delay, and the plugin delay compensation in Ableton doesn't really compensate for that properly, what's going to happen is that this bass is not going to be ducked where the kick is dropping actually, but somewhere else. And you can hear the difference right there. So if I move this out of the way of the LFO tool, see, and now if I add that in front, this adds a latency that the LFO tool cannot compensate for. And very often we do have a lot of processing and we do want to apply something like this LFO tool onto a group track or something like that, and we have a lot of processing before that introduces a lot of latency, and that latency is not compensated for, and thus we have a problem with the LFO tool not reacting at the proper time. So this envelope not being actually synced to our grid lines in the project, that is the actual problem, since this plugin is introducing the delay that the LFO tool is not ready for, is not compensated for. So how do we combat that? Well, in Ableton, I could make a MIDI track just like this and add let's say, just like this, one whole new MIDI clip. And I could add a note for every, let me just go down on this. Yeah, so I could add a MIDI note, just like that, a quarter note, just like the kick drum would be. So now I can re-trigger this whole thing using that note. Well, how? In the LFO tool, I'm going to turn on note re-triggering, and then I can turn that off, don't need it anymore, and the output of this MIDI track is going to go right here. You see Serum. If I select that channel, I'm going to go track in, Serum, LFO tool. You see, so I can send that MIDI information to this track, and then on that track to the LFO tool. So any plugin that can receive MIDI data, and LFO tool can, we just enabled it. So right now this little MIDI note right there is going to be re-triggering that LFO tool to actually properly sidechain. So let's see how that works. Let's see without it. So you see, actually, even one note would be enough to actually trigger it every time we start playing, and then it's going to stay in sync. But, having this latency disables it to actually be in sync, to compensate properly. So having that note re-trigger it every time is really useful. When you have a project, a long project playing, you just need one track like this, well, for each of these LFO tools. And you can just spread that out just like that over the whole track, and that's going to be syncing your LFO tool for the entire duration of the song. Well, we hope we solved the problem for some of you, at least, who's been experiencing this. And if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and if you want to learn more about music production, you can check out our full music production certificate at soundbridgeacademy.com. You can find the link in the description. See ya.